I've been playing a ton of Immersive Sims lately, and I really wanted to talk about why I like the genre, but without doing a dedicated review, retrospective, or analysis of any of these individual games. This is basically going to be my sales pitch to the uninformed about it, and what I think makes the Immersive Sim genre really cool, and what makes me wish more games were like it. So if you're a seasoned veteran with Immersive Sims, or any of these games in particular, this isn't really going to be a video for you. You'll most likely walk away, or find yourself throughout the video going, yeah, I already knew that. So for those who have never heard about the genre, which judging by how Pat on Castle Superbeast had to tell people this wasn't a made-up term he invented, so there's probably a few of you, like any good YouTuber, I'm going to read off the Wikipedia definition. Like how survival horror is built around resource management, or how character action games are all about styling on your enemies, or how MOBAs are designed to make you the worst possible version of yourself and ruin your life. Immersive Sims' entire ethos is player expression, a distinct unparalleled level of interactivity and interconnectivity in its world. If you are familiar with my channel and the games I often recommend, you probably have noticed that I adore emergent gameplay. One of the coolest things a game can do for me is give me a bunch of tools and just say, go fucking nuts with it. Open-ended gameplay is king. If you've played any of these games and like their core gameplay loop, there is a good chance you will like Immersive Sims. If you really like the thinking and planning aspect of making creative kills in Hitman, or if you really like messing around with all the tools in your arsenal to avoid/combat BTs and mules while optimizing routes in Death Stranding, or if you like any of the weird shit possible in the Metal Gear games, like feeding the Fear rotten food so he gets sick and you can do a non-lethal takedown without having to use precious trank ammo and silencer durability. If any of those apply, there is a good chance that at least one Immersive Sim will appeal to you. Also, Sims are often heavy story-based RPGs where you can build your character to fit your playstyle. You can be a techno space wizard with so many neuromods injected into your brain your head size rivals Sheen's, creating devastating explosions with your mind, or shape-shifting into items in your close proximity. Or you can play like me and be a jack of all trades, master of none, so you can see as much of the game as it has to offer, and then blow up any roadblocks that are in your way with the Gep gun when impeding your progress. Unfortunately, I haven't played every game in the Immersive Sim genre, so my viewpoint can be a bit limited, but I do think there are two good methods to go about getting into the genre. It's the same methods with how I recommend pretty much any genre or series. Option 1 is to start with older games, since they can be clunky and jank at times. For as much as I love and adore the original Deus Ex, there is some stuff in that game that feels archaic and backwards by today's standards. Like, I wish I was able to pick up bodies without having to loot everything off them first, so if I don't have enough room to carry their flamethrower or assault rifle, they are just going to stay on the ground. Or how ladders just sometimes don't work properly, resulting in you falling to your death or breaking your legs. The benefits of starting here is getting to see the genre at its roots. It may be frustrating at times, some jank may lead you to turning off a game for a bit, but you get to see the evolution that takes place with each new entry and how titles influence future ones. If that's something that you don't really care about, that's completely fine and understandable, which is why the second recommended starting point is pick newer games like Prey 2017 or the modern Deus Ex games. They definitely have a lot of quality of life improvements and things you would expect from playing a game that came out in this decade. Or the third option, which is just pick whatever piques your interest. You don't have to start at any specific point to be a real fan or whatever other stupid bullshit you might hear. I simply like to give recommendations in a way that I would want to be told about if someone was trying to pitch a new series or genre to me. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what you do, just pick a game and have a blast, and if you find that you don't vibe with the genre, that's completely fine. For the rest of the video, I want to take some time to show some cool moments from a few games that I've played recently as further showcasing of the interactivity of their worlds. Most of these examples are from early points of these games and don't contain any story spoilers, but regardless, I will be marking them in the YouTube chapter feature so you can skip over any particular game if you want to go into it completely blind. Cruelty Squad is the game that made it all finally click for me with the Immersive Sim genre. I had played others before, but it was usually in the worst way possible that I ended up bouncing off it or not really getting the appeal. Like, I played Human Revolution on the Xbox 360 when it came out when I was like 13. Or like when I played Divine Cybermancy right after I got my own PC and still didn't understand the genre, since the only FPSs I ever played were console ones like Call of Duty and Halo. After finally acclimating with Immersive Sims, the thing that always made my OCD flare up was wanting to see all the permutations possible. But most of these games would require an entire second playthrough where you respect your character to do things differently. All I wanted to do was check out this one different route in the middle of the game. I don't want to put another 20 hours into the game just so I could get back to this point with a different build. Cruelty Squad circumvents that by being level-based with loadouts, so I could take different combinations of equipment at the ease of a few clicks. The equipment you find in this game can vastly change how you approach a level. Like just in the first one, this door right here says there's a few cracks in it. If you have a grenade, you can blow it up. Or if you have one of the leg springs, you can jump higher and jump right over the fence. Or if you have the grapendix, you could just shoot your meat grappling hook at a corner and fly right over it. There is one early stage of the game that is a poison-infested swamp. Simply touching any of the water gets you infected as it rapidly chews through your health and messes with your vision, so aiming your guns is exceptionally hard. There is a hazmat suit in this level, but that means you have to at least complete it once while carrying it before you can ever see its benefits. But if you've managed to make enough money by now, either through replaying levels or gaming the stock market from fishing, harvesting organs, or paying attention to the cryptic words told to you by NPCs or mission descriptions so you invest in the right companies, you can buy equipment like the gunk thrusters. These give you a rocket-propelled dash, and combine them with the gunk boots, which give you a double jump that breaks your fall. You can glide through this level without ever touching the water, like you're on an airboat in the swamps of Florida trying to hide a body of a hooker you just killed for crack money. Though momentum from these abilities does take a little getting used to, but once you get your bearings, it's hard to go back to going through levels normally. The grapendix is completely broken, but I am so happy an item like this was in the game. It allows you to scale tall buildings like your apartment complex, like how you see bank robbers do in heist movies. The grapendix explodes open the gate to creatively traversing these levels. It's such a great and fun item that it's gotten to the point that I find it hard for me to take any of the other equipments other than it because it is so irresistible to swing through these levels like you're Spider-Man, if Spider-Man was a character that originated from Mr. Meaty. Deus Ex is probably the most iconic game in the genre, and for good reason. This game is amazing, and it's astonishing how ageless most of this game feels, with its narrative coming off more relevant today than it did when it came out in 2000, in the same way that people react to Metal Gear Solid 2's story now. That's not to say it's without its jank and archaic design choices. Ladders are bad, as I'd mentioned earlier. There's no way to choose what you want to loot off of bodies, so you'll find yourself having to constantly go into the menus to drop all the fucking combat knives that you keep constantly picking up from knocked out NSF guards. I must have spent at least an hour alone of my playthrough just doing that. The default controls feel utterly alien at times, with things like left bracket being assigned to aim down scopes, but at least they're remappable. This is what I meant earlier when saying if you're willing to go back to older games to start there, because it feels awkward at times jumping back from modern games to something like this. It felt like relearning how to play these games when jumping from Prey 2017 to Cruelty Squad to this, back and forth over and over again to get footage. Do not let what I just said dissuade you from playing Deus Ex. Its issues are few and far between, and I think it's still one of the best games ever made. Even in the games that I played in the genre, the interactivity in Deus Ex's world goes unrivaled. There is so much dialogue flexibility, there is so many different approaches to things. I spent 30 hours only getting to Hong Kong because I kept saving and quick loading to test out how things would react differently, and I was impressed every single time. There was just so much forethought put into designing these levels. During your second mission, you need to find a stolen shipment of ambrosia in Battery Park. There are a few ways to go about getting into the NSF base. The standard going through the front door, either guns blazing or via stealth, or if you happen to pick up a candy bar in, say, Mandalore's personal bathroom before leaving for this mission, then you can talk to this kid by the docks you arrived at and give him it. Now that he isn't starving, he'll inform you that there is a secret path behind the vending machine and gives you the code to open it. A little later, when in Hell's Kitchen, is where this stuff really starts to get insane. There is a smuggler that sells weapons and upgrades that is locked up in his hideout near the metro. You can save the daughter of the hotel owner from a thug, and then she'll give you the password. Or if you open a shipping container behind the basketball court, you can take this ladder down into his hideout. If you saved the bum getting assaulted on the basketball court on the way there, he'll give you a password of the mole people, which you can use later to access a secret path when putting in a specific code in a phone booth in the subway. At another point in the game, you need to get into a lab that is underneath an office building. If your hacking skills are good enough, you can simply hack one of the PCs and get a temp security code. Or you can buy the code off the manager on the third floor. Or if you don't have the money or the hacking skills, you could talk to the employee that is alone working in his cubicle and says if you kill the manager, he'll give you the code. Hell, there's even things that don't actually matter or affect the game but add to the world building. Like back in Hell's Kitchen, if you go to the bar when looking for information, you can find this guy asking for beer. He won't accept any beer that you happen to carry on you since it's warm, so you need to buy a cold one from the bartender. Later, it turns out he's the pilot of the helicopter that's coming to pick you up once you complete your mission, and you have a unique line of dialogue if you gave him the beer.
I really wish I knew that Prey 2017 was an immersive sim sooner. I bounced off it back in 2018 because I found the first hour of the game kinda boring, and only started playing it again recently because a friend was telling me how much fun they were having while playing it. Seriously, why the hell doesn't the Steam page have the immersive sim tag instead of tags like space or horror? I don't really think this game is that scary, and I don't know why it's being marketed as one. I'd be pretty pissed if I bought this game under the assumption that it was a horror game. I guess you could say it has survival horror elements, but the RPG and immersive sim stuff really takes way more precedent over them that it feels like it should have been the main tag and marketing point. There are two distinct moments in this game that made me fall in love with it to the point that it had me binging the whole game in 30 hours over the course of 2.5 days. The first was just walking into the hardware lab seeing a rogue security bot that was hostile. I noticed they spilled liquid on the ground that looked like it could have been gasoline, and then found out that it was from these little containers. This was still at the point I wasn't aware this was an immersive sim, and I wanted to test out how interactive the world was. So I saved, then aggroed the bot and led it over to the spill and shot it only for it to explode, destroying the bot. That is one thing though that I do want to mention about this game. As one of the modern immersive sim recommendations, guns feel like actual guns, unlike the original Deus Ex where it feels like guns are an adaptation of how a gun would theoretically work in a pen and paper tabletop RPG, where the DM would tell you to roll for an accuracy check only for you to land at 2 and then go, "You fired your gun and somehow the bullet flew out at a 90-degree angle, missing everything in the immediate vicinity and aggroed every guard in the compound." The second instance came with the glue gun. If you have watched my Hitman Blood Money retrospective, I talked about how the coin in that game is a key example of a skill expression weapon. Low skill players will get little to no use out of it, while a high skilled player will break the game with it. The glue gun is another amazing example that belongs in this discussion. At first I wasn't really getting much use out of the gun other than freezing mimics and bonking them with a wrench. Then I saw an NPC trying to run from a phantom and created a makeshift staircase with glue to try to escape. Seeing this at first didn't really do anything for me, but about 20 minutes later I was in the hardware labs trying to get up to this platform that had broken stairs, and then suddenly the lights in my head turned on, and it was an amazing moment of remembering back to that NPC and doing the same thing. This is what I find so addicting about these games, that eureka moment, the feeling of understanding the game's system so well you create your own paths. There is an enemy in the game called the telepath, which possesses bodies of people but leaves them conscious the entire time. If you get too close to them, the people's heads will explode, damaging you. If you manage to sneak past them and kill the telepath the first time it was introduced to you, you can actually talk to the people it was controlling. This made it so I always tried to free and save everyone being controlled by it, just to see what possible cool things they could say after I saved them. But then the remaining times, all it would do when you killed the telepath was make them ragdoll and fall to the ground, leaving them unconscious, which left me disappointed at first. But in exchange for this, you do get a chance way later in the game to talk to these characters you saved in a safe house. Peripeteia has a demo on Steam right now, which is another place to get your feet wet in the proverbial immersive sim pool free of charge. The game's Kickstarter page lists a bunch of their inspirations, and yeah, this is exactly the type of shit I like. From bartering menus that remind me of Stalker to your apartment that feels like it's right out of Lane. The first level is a great playground for you to taste the open-endedness of immersive sim level design. The bartender to the place you wake up in asks you to get a keycard located in a brick building with a scaffolding. The game has an amazing parkour and ledge grabbing system that admittedly has a decent learning curve to it due to the depth of it and some jank. Once you really start to understand it, you will be flying through these levels and easily make your way to the building, either from the pipes of the neighboring apartment building or across these rooftops where this bum lives that you can give food to if you picked it up at the bar and talk about philosophy to him and get some lore about the world. The brick building has a group that's already in it and will attack you if you enter without their permission. You can buy the key card off them for $500, which is really steep for you since you start the game with 0, or you can get it for free by doing them a favor and kill the drug dealer in the building across the street that you possibly used to get up here, or you can sneak into the building through a secret passageway for a church indicated by these markings on the walls. Keep in mind this is a demo, so it isn't perfect. For as cool as the level design is, it's very easy to get lost in it and feel completely aimless like I am currently on the second level. The level is so massive that on multiple occasions I found myself climbing out of the world and falling to my death because I thought I was just parkouring to a potential new path when there's no clear indication what is going to be out of bounds and what is actually something that is designed for the map. It's also pretty janky, like I ran into a progression bug where I couldn't complete the second level after getting the blackmail information on my target or killing him, leaving me just confused at what the game wanted me to do because I did the objective and went back to the guy who gave me the mission only to then tell me to go do it and complete it and stop wasting his time despite already doing it, and he started to acknowledge it at the beginning of our conversation. This is still very much worth checking out yourself in spite of this, and is one of my most anticipated games of 2022 if it ends up actually coming out then. I hope this list of experiences I had helped highlight what I think is so amazing about this genre, that feeling of interactivity that only video games, rarely outside of this genre, can give you. Games that are so content-rich and so layered and meticulously designed that you can go and replay them over and over again for years and still find new things to discover that you never knew about. Pretty much all the games in the genre regularly go on sale for incredibly cheap. Like, it feels like the Thief trilogy goes on sale once a month for sub $3 altogether, which is at least alone 60 hours of gameplay. I would recommend getting the GOG versions for those games because the Steam versions are not nearly as good and don't work properly. The original Deus Ex goes on sale also very cheap on both Steam and GOG, and you could find it on key sites for like 60 cents. Dark Messiah regularly goes on sale for $2. Same with the Dishonored games and the new Deus Ex games. I Divine Cybermancy is another game that is already cheap but also is really cheap when on sale, but I would probably watch a few videos about that game before you commit to buying it because it's not for everybody. I hope you found something interesting in this video, and I genuinely hope that one of these games really sparks some interest with you and you have a complete blast and they become one of your all-time favorites. At some point in the future, I may do reviews on these games individually, or maybe I'll do a follow-up video at some point because there are a few immersive sims that I still need to finish, like System Shock 2, Thief 2, and Deus Ex Mankind Divided. If you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks for watching as always. If you really liked the video, please pass it around. And if you really like the channel, maybe consider becoming a patron on Patreon. All patrons get access to videos a day early, along with a new $7 tier, which allows you to see behind the scenes and rough cuts of videos before they're done. This is a tier mainly for people who are interested to see how videos are made in the process of making them and how they change over time. I'm now going to thank my $5 and up patrons who really help support the channel. Bully, Comrade Fox, Lucy the Fox, Bluntman 4200, Elliot Morton, Lotto, Nathan Redding, Slemp Tingle, Ben Johnson, Chichometrius, Dusty the Zombie, Ek Frazo, Filthy Finger 69, Fish Kami, Joshua D. Larino, Justin Collini, Kevin Velasquez, Matthew Elliott, Onion Girl, Poke Joke S, Quartz, Ruben Rodriguez, Star Fox, Some Panda, the FOE3, The Unthinkable, and William Moore. Thanks so much, guys. If you're a card game player of any kind, I have a TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Any purchases you make using my link will give me a small kickback, so it's another way to help support the channel. As for what's coming next, I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to be sticking to some shorter videos for the time being because of some real-life obligations, so these would be just easier to get out and be out more frequently. Hopefully I'll find time soon to do the Yakuza 2 retrospective, and as always, promising to try to figure out what I want to do for the Berserk retrospective. Follow me on Twitter or check the Patreon page to keep up to date with what's going on the channel, and as always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.